Very good morning, everyone. It is indeed a pleasure to be here today and a privilege, and I'm so happy to see so many young people, representation from the government, civil society organizations and corporates, and lots of organizations and individuals who are here to support the aftercare movement. And I'm also really happy that UNICEF has partnered with CSA to organize this and hopefully to develop the call to action and take this forward. We are all aware that every child and young person has the right to live in a supportive, protective and caring family environment. And this right, as we all know, is enshrined in the Convention for the Rights of the Child, the CRC, which clearly delineates the role of the family in the child's life. But over the years, we have seen, that institutional care has become the default means of placement of children when there is a situation where they do not have family care or family-like care. And also, rather than being the measure of last resort, it was the measure of first resort. So I just wanted to say that it is important to ensure that children do have a family-like environment. But we have seen in the recent years that there has been a shift. There's been a shift towards promoting non-institutional care, and that children who are leaving the care system are better equipped to think independently, to be able to live independently, and successfully transition into adulthood from the institutional care system. So just very briefly, as you may all be aware, the international progress has been that there are the guidelines on alternative care, which was adopted by the UN General Assembly in 2009. Following that, the importance of family and family-based care against institutional care is further reiterated and strengthened in December 2019 by the UN General Assembly, and they adopted the resolution on the promotion and protection of rights of children. And as recently as 2021, there was a day of general discussion where they focused on alternative care. And just to let you know that from India, we did send a representation and a paper on aftercare at this day of general discussion. We had worked together across the country, and through the Alternative Care Network, we had submitted a paper on aftercare. And so aftercare has existed in our juvenile justice system, and it has evolved over time. Today I've been asked to speak on the policy framework to set the context, but I think most of you, as I see here, may be familiar with this, so I'll just be very brief and saying that in the Juvenile Justice Act of 2015, it says, the rehabilitation and social integration of a child shall begin during the stay of the child in a children's home, and shall be carried out alternatively by sending the child to foster care, sponsorship, or an aftercare organization. It also says in Mission Vatsalya that children after completing the age of 18 years may be offered support as aftercare up to the age of 21 years in order to mainstream them and enable them to become self-dependent. This is what Mission Vatsalya says. And aftercare is defined within the JJ Act and rules, which has two criteria for eligibility. One is that they have to complete 18 years of age, and secondly, those who have left institutional care. So aftercare means making provision of support, financial or otherwise, to persons who have completed the age of 18 years, but have not completed the age of 21 years and have left any institutional care to join the mainstream of society, Section 2(5), Section 46 of the JJ Act. And continued support to children who exit CCIs on turning 18, that is care leavers, to be provided till 21 years if needed, extendable by another 2 years, independent living and community integration. So this is all there. We are all aware that we are mandated to support people leaving care from the institutional setup. We have also seen in our consultations, when we speak to various young people who have left childcare institutions or who are in the process of childcare institutions, there is an anxiety, there is stress, there is that feeling that what will happen to me when I leave care. And we have seen that, children, there are challenges, like for example, if a child is completing 18 years and has not fulfilled their higher education and they want to study further, then what happens? So the higher education needs to be supported. Vocational skills could provide them with adequate income for independent living. Also support to deal with trauma, the mental health support and counseling, various health challenges, affordable housing. Lack of support during different forms of crisis is something that they have expressed when we have spoken to them. So what we have seen that in the absence of support, young people have come together to form their own peer groups, networks, and they grow up, and they have developed bonds and relationships which have helped them to come together and to be able to support each other during the time of crisis. And so therefore we have seen that it's really important to be able to implement the Act and to be able to use the scheme Mission Vatsalya in its true spirit. So it's very important. What we have seen is aftercare support, that is preparing children in the transition phase before they leave childcare institutions, helping them with an exit kit, as well as community exposure, life skills education. Then during the process also of aftercare, we have seen that the importance of support with referrals, linkages, that kind of information, strengthening services and social reintegration is something that is critical. And the third part that we have seen is also the whole piece on post-aftercare, which is mentoring, creating different platforms, and adhering to the guidelines. So all states hopefully do have guidelines, and if they don't, we strongly urge that all states do prepare aftercare guidelines so that all children leaving care can be supported through that. And then linking care leavers and organizations, working with them through career and development agencies. I think we have private sector here, corporate sector here. They can play a very critical role at this point to support young people. And also looking, what we have seen is when children leave care, as it is said in the Act and Mission Vatsalya, there are aftercare organizations or homes where children go, but we also need to see more and more of support towards independent living. So that is something that we have seen is not, not really happening, and that is something that we strongly encourage is how do we support people to be able to stand on their own feet without living again in an institutional setup. And so, there have been different examples. As I understand, MP is here. I think you have raised the age to 25 years. Am I right? For aftercare, or is it still 21? It's 21, but further support till 23 in case of need be. Orissa is 25. Orissa, so that's what I was hearing somebody. Okay, so it's Orissa which is 25. And some states have also seen that aftercare funds under the Juvenile Justice Fund can also be made possible, because there is a Juvenile Justice Fund which is available, to see how that can also be utilized. So another point that I would like to also make is that, till the children are in care, till they are 18 and they leave care, WCD plays a really important role. But once you leave care, there are lots of other agencies, ministries, which do need to converge and come together, whether it's education, whether it's health, and you have the support of skills and employment. I think it's not just WCD, but there's really need for multiple ministries and departments to coordinate to be able to provide support to this group of children. And though the government is primary duty bearers, the NGO, community groups, networks can play a really important role for shaping the future of young people. Lastly, there's a message that I would like to leave with all of you. There's something that I was at another aftercare meeting in Delhi recently. I see a lot of familiar faces of young people from there as well. And that is the importance of equity, gender and inclusion. I think this is something that, even though it's not deliberately maybe spelled out in the policy framework, or even if it is, I think this is something that we really need to keep in mind. There are very few aftercare homes or spaces for girls. When girls come out of the system, most of them tend to get sent to Swadhar Grahas or other such organizations because they don't have any other support system for girls. Then the approach is to get girls married rather than supporting them otherwise, because of the lack of other options available. Similarly, the rights of LGBTQI+, also the children who are coming out, what are the services available. We also see the acute needs of children with HIV and other such problems that come out of childcare institutions, what happens to those children, and of course, children with disability. We have seen disability is a factor that most children who get left behind in childcare institutions are those with disability. So what happens to them? So a message that I would also like to give to care leavers whilst they are planning their networks and they have experienced care, they have come out of the system. What are we doing for our peers who have disability? How do we make sure that they are not left behind? This is something that I think we need to really factor in, and this is one of the key things that I would like to say. The other point is that Mr. Vipul mentioned very importantly is where are the children? Where do they go? How do we know what happens to children once they come out of the institutional system? So do we have an MIS? Do we have data collection? This is something that I think is really critical that we have seen when children come out of the institution. So management of aftercare is really important, and legal rights for children who come out of the system. So in conclusion, UNICEF has been working very closely on this subject, on collectivizing care leavers, building networks. I think we've worked together in about 13 states to form networks. We also have the National Care Leavers Network, which has recently been formed. So I would also suggest, and when you are having discussions, when you're deliberating on these issues, to see how there can be representation from the states at the national level so that one can work together on areas of policy promotion, bringing visibility, referrals, linkages, the corporate sector, etc., as a part of this whole network. Generate evidence. We also have a program with care leavers to be able to make them change agents through a fellowship. It's not a very large program, it's been only 3 years, but we've had about I think 20 plus, now we have 13 fellows in total, 33 fellows who have been across different states, I think 15 states where we have been working closely. And lastly is also the importance of mental health and psychosocial support. I think that is something that is critical need of young people before they leave care, as well as after leaving care, is something that we have seen, and there is a gap of the kind of support that is provided to care leavers, and we do need more people to come forward, more counselors and support to be provided to young people who are leaving care. And so please don't forget, when you're discussing today, the whole area of inclusion, equity, gender. Thank you.